Welcome to The Explainer, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're tackling a subject that's honestly just massive and totally fascinating: Hindu mythology. If you've ever flipped through these ancient texts and felt, a little overwhelmed, trust me, you're not alone. But today, we're going to break down these rich, deeply human stories of cosmic rivalries and profound moral lessons and make them make perfect sense.
Let's just jump right in with a brilliant analogy from our source material. Imagine you're at your partner's massive family reunion, just desperately trying to figure out how everyone's related. And yeah, some people literally just show up for the pizza. It's a great way to look at it because it instantly disarms that intimidation you might feel about the Hindu pantheon. I mean, you've got gods appearing under different names, losing their heads, forming rivers from watering pots. It's this gloriously intricate tapestry. So if your brain hurts a little bit trying to sort it all out, that is perfectly natural. So here's our roadmap for navigating all this today. We'll start with making sense of the myths, then move to the dawn of creation, the might of Shiva, divine love and tests, and finally, the elephant-headed god.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, making sense of the myths, the rules of the universe. To give these ancient stories some context, we really need to know the script they're reading from. What's absolutely fascinating here is the stark contrast between the two main types of holy texts that form the backbone of this mythology. First, you have the Shruti, which translates to that which is heard. These are your foundational, authorless, ageless texts, like the Vedas. And then, on the flip side, you have the Smriti, or that which is remembered. This includes the epic, authored stories like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Together, these texts literally build the perspective of every single myth we're about to explore.
So, how do these ancient texts translate into modern practice? Well, it boils down to four major branches. Vaishnavism focuses on Vishnu, Shaivism focuses on Shiva, Shaktism centers on the divine feminine, Shakti, and then there's the Smarta tradition, which advocates for the equal worship of five gods. Actually, there's a really clever trick from the text to remember that last one. There are exactly 5 letters in the word smart. If you keep these branches in the back of your mind, the varying focuses of the myths are going to make total sense. Moving right along to Section 2, the dawn of creation, the first gods. Picture this. From a conceptual nothingness known as the Brahman, the universe actually starts to take shape. The very first thing created? Water. We see the blue-skinned god Vishnu just peacefully napping on the cool cosmic waves. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, a shining egg appears in the water, glowing as bright as the sun. Inside this egg, the creator god Brahma is molding his form for 1,000 years. When he finally bursts out, the two halves of that egg become heaven and earth, and Brahma uses his own hands to shape the continents right out of the waters. Which brings us to Section 3, the might of Shiva, a cosmic rivalry. Because gods have egos too, right? Let's look at how a petty argument turns into a massive cosmic event and introduces the third major deity of the Hindu trinity. So Brahma and Vishnu are bickering over who is the supreme god. Typical, right? Suddenly, this impossibly bright, endless pillar of fire just materializes between them. Determined to find the top, Brahma transforms into a goose and flies upward for ages. Meanwhile, Vishnu turns into a boar and digs deep down into the earth to find the bottom. Spoiler alert, neither of them can find the end. They come back totally exhausted. Then, the pillar literally shakes the earth and sky, and from its fiery depths, Lord Shiva, the destroyer, steps right out. Now, Shiva doesn't just represent destruction, he's all about strict cosmic order, and this story perfectly captures the wild, character-driven drama of these myths. So, Brahma creates a woman named Saraswati, and he becomes so intensely infatuated with her that he actually sprouts 4 extra heads just to creepily stare at her wherever she moves. Shiva? He was not having it. He found this behavior entirely inappropriate. When Brahma's 5th head actually hissed and insulted Shiva for interfering, Shiva just drew his sword and declared, "A head that speaks in such a way shall not speak at all," and struck it right off Brahma's shoulders. All right, let's pivot a bit. Section 4, divine love and tests. Shiva and Parvati. Shifting away from epic cosmic justice, we enter a dynamic that feels, well, almost like a divine soap opera. Parvati had been performing these incredibly intense meditations just to win the attention of Shiva, who is deep in mourning. But Shiva being Shiva, he wanted to be absolutely sure of her intentions. So he disguises himself as a wealthy Brahmin, visits her shrine, and starts mocking her. He asks why she'd choose a poor, ash-covered ascetic god, testing her devotion by asking if she'd really want to live without wealth.
Parvati is furious and says she will marry absolutely no one but Shiva. Satisfied that she loved him for him and not for status, Shiva drops the disguise and takes her as his bride.
But hey, marriage is tough, right? Even if you're a mortal. So one day, Shiva sits Parvati down in their garden to teach her the Vedas. He's explaining the rituals, the hymns, the mantras, and he just keeps talking for 1,000 years. Naturally, Parvati's eyes start to droop and she accidentally yawns. Well, Shiva was so incredibly offended by this tiny lapse in attention that he banished his wife to Earth to be reborn as a mortal fisherwoman. Talk about an overreaction. Of course, the second she was gone, Shiva was utterly miserable. And here's where we see the quirky charm of these stories. Shiva's incredibly loyal mount, the wise bull Nandi, just couldn't stand seeing his master cry. So what does he do? Nandi sneaks down to Parvati's mortal village, transforms himself into a massive trickster whale, and just starts terrorizing the local fishermen. He's flipping boats, tearing nets, causing absolute chaos, until the village leader gets desperate and offers Parvati's hand in marriage to anyone who can catch the beast. This was exactly the excuse Shiva needed to come down in disguise, catch the whale, save the day, and finally win his wife back.
Before we reach our conclusion today, we have to ask arguably the most famous question in all of Hindu mythology. If you've ever seen imagery of Hindu deities, you've definitely noticed a prominent figure with a human body and an elephant's head. So, how exactly did that happen? That brings us to Section 5, the elephant-headed god, hubris and mercy.
Let's explore the origins of Ganesha. It's a story packed with tragic misunderstandings, really rash decisions, and profound moral lessons. The tension here is just palpable. Basically, Shiva goes off to meditate and rid the world of negative forces. He is gone for years. While he's away, Parvati gives birth to a son, Ganesha, who grows up strong and fiercely loyal to his mom. One day, an absent-minded Shiva finally returns home, but Ganesha's guarding the gate. Ganesha has no idea what his dad looks like, so he refuses to let this stranger in. Shiva, completely unaware he even has a son, completely loses his temper at this insolent boy blocking his own house. In a flash of impatience, he strikes the boy down, slicing his head right off. When Parvati discovers what Shiva has done, she is absolutely inconsolable, weeping over her son. Realizing his horrific mistake, Shiva frantically promises to make it right. He vows to give the boy the head of the very first sleeping creature he finds. He searches everywhere, rivers, mountains, until finally, deep in the jungle, he spots a sleeping baby elephant. He plucks the head off, places it on the boy's shoulders, and just like that, creates the iconic image of Lord Ganesha, forever blessed by the highest gods. Now, slowing down our narrative for just a second, let's look at another story from Ganesha's youth. In this one, we see young Ganesha acting exactly like, well, a cruel, thoughtless kid. He finds this dusty, shabby little village cat hiding under some stairs and decides to use it as a toy. He drags it out by the leg, tosses it high into the air, and just batters this poor creature for pure entertainment before heading inside for lunch. But when Ganesha gets inside, he finds his mother, Parvati, huddled in a corner, absolutely covered in deep, purple bruises. He frantically asks who hurt her, and the moral pivot here is just stunning. She looks at him and reveals that she was the cat. Whatever pain he had inflicted on that helpless animal, he had inflicted directly on his own mother. It is a brilliant, poignant lesson that teaches Ganesha, and all of us watching today, the absolutely vital importance of showing mercy and kindness to those who are smaller and weaker than we are. To wrap up our explainer today, I really want to leave you pondering this. When you look past the multiple heads, the shape-shifting, and the epic cosmic scales of time, what do you actually see? These bizarre, larger-than-life tales of gods literally mirror our very own human flaws. They show us the dangers of a big ego, the everyday trials of marriage, the tragedy of jumping to conclusions, and our desperate need for empathy. These aren't just ancient fables, you guys. They are a timeless reflection of the human condition. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredible material. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.